welcome everyone to TRRAIN's series called Inclusion and Diversity Made Easy for All. We are here to help you understand better how to drive inclusion and diversity at each of your respective organizations. Today, on the occasion of Global Accessibility Awareness Day, year 2021, we bring to you a session on the importance of digital accessibility and growing opportunities for persons with disability. I'm really proud and honored to be moderating this session with Ms. Shilpi Kapoor, CEO Barrier Break, and Mr. Rahul Jindal, Global Director, Google. The added advantage and happiness on this call is how do I get to moderate this session? Somebody who has been on the top 15 women entrepreneurs in transforming India, and Mr. Jindal, somebody who is with an organization which is driving accessibility and creating technologies and product innovations for persons with disability. So it's a great afternoon and great to have you both here. I welcome you on behalf of TRRAIN. We have launched our livelihood programs called Punk Wings of Destiny in the year 2011. And while we speak, so far the amount of livelihoods what we have reached, though words would be less, but then with numbers, we have close to more than 18,000 youth, persons with disabilities who have been accessed, brought into our classroom, given training for 45 odd days, 60 odd days, and we have been providing sustainable employment opportunities for them in and around retail and allied sectors. Last year of the pandemic, unfortunately, we all are facing it currently as well. And the year saw us through us many challenges where we had to transform from our physical classrooms to a virtual classroom. While we spoke about transforming our candidates, getting them accessible smartphone devices, making them understand about internet usage, putting them across a basic understanding of how to recharge their smartphones so that they can access our training classrooms. It has been showing us lot many challenges, and we have learned tremendous many things. And with industry experts, we have been discussing topics. We have been talking about avenues from where we can get in our trainees accessible technology, make them understand about the classroom, and after the training program, of course, proceeding towards getting and sustainable employment opportunity. With interviews being carried on WhatsApp interviews, with interviews on telephonic calls, on Zoom calls. So there are too many changes which has happened over the last year. While we get this opportunity to talk about accessibility, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome both of our panelists and get started with the day. Having said that, Shilpi, it's been a great chance to see you in person and meeting you here, and knowing that the amount of things and tasks which has been carried out of breaking barrier. My first question would be to you is about to understand what are some of the major digital barriers faced by persons with disabilities, and if at all we can provide solutions for them.
Well, if I was to put it like this, I think a lot of the digital barriers that are there for people with disabilities are made by you and me. It is us who are creating these products. Developers who are coding are creating these barriers. If you actually look at the solution that you talk about for a second, it's about ensuring that we develop products and solutions keeping the international accessibility standards in mind. And if we do that, then we are going to have products which are going to be inclusive, equitable, without any of us having to have these debates that we currently do. So some of the challenges that people face, right? A simple one is if you've got a video, how does a person who is deaf or hard of hearing understand what is being said within that video? If I go onto a website as a visually impaired person and I'm using a screen reader and I cannot access that drop-down menu, which you can, then am I providing them equal access? So I think the concept of digital accessibility actually, there are barriers that affect, most of us from time to time, which are actually very easily solvable and, and that we can develop for, but often isn't done. So that's a brief to start.
All right. So instructions and thinking about a product and bringing it out to the best possible audience would be the key to this solution, to this proposed situation as of now.
I think yes, along with standards,
along with
right?
standard?
Which
Okay, that
is
comes
the
in.
key to the whole thing.
That comes in from Shilpi. Shilpi, well, thanks a lot. Rahul, if I may ask you into this current pandemic that we all are facing, it's been more than a year, and quite a many things have been repetitive since last March, and we are still proceeding further. And again, there is a lockdown which has seeped in since April, and we are still finding out ways to come out of it. We as an organization, we have faced across plenty many challenges in terms of giving the right employment to our trainees who pass out from our n number of training centers across India, and so goes out to other skilling centers as well, from where persons with disabilities do pass out. So Rahul, do you think there would be employment opportunities for PwDs which have been severely affected, and how can we as a society or as an organization support this situation?
Yeah, no, thank you. I think, and thank you for all the work that all of you are doing. I think uh, in this society, surely people with disabilities somewhere have had a bit of a short end of the stick in terms of lack of support. But kudos to organizations like yours who are stepping up to help that community. So yeah, I mean, the pandemic has been hard in multiple ways for everybody, right? And somebody who started uh, the lockdowns with a position of disadvantage was even more impacted, right? So, and that's why PwDs is a vulnerable community facing the brunt of the pandemic even more sharply. I think it's important to acknowledge that the pandemic, while it's still not over, is has changed the workplace permanently, right? You
Yes.
would see a lot more flexibility coming in, a lot more. I think there were some preconceived notions of what work looks like pre-pandemic, which, while there's a lot of suffering and there's unemployment and there's disease and there is people passing away, but the work has sort of continued over the last 14, 15 months now, right? Which tells us that physical proximity, co-location, the need to travel to a certain place called the workplace, it was a little bit overstated previously, right? Work can be done remotely, right? Obviously, there are some roles which will require co-location, but many roles do not require co-location. And I think these factors and this kind of realization actually works in the favor of people with disabilities. Now, obviously, disability is not one thing; it's a whole spectrum of spectrums. But especially when it is a mobility-related disability or it was socialization-related disability, I think some of those barriers, I think, are going to reduce in the future. So I would like our community to think about this event of the pandemic not as a beginning of a doomsday kind of thing, but more as everybody needs to adapt. We need to adapt too, right? But I think I would look at it as an opportunity that now more of the world, more of the employers understand that work can be done remotely, and that would actually be a net positive for this community. I think, as always, with everybody, including people not with disabilities, right? Skills are important. So I would like us to zoom out and see what are the skills which will be important in the post-pandemic world, right? Obviously, the world is moving a lot more digital. I do work at a company where digital is quite important, but I think it would not be wrong to say that the world is moving online, interactions are moving online. We are having one such conversation over Zoom. So how do we get our community to be comfortable with remote conversations, right? With remote presence, with remote accountability, with being able to articulate our point in whatever mode we are comfortable with. So those things, I think, working remotely, I feel is something which may not have been a module almost in our learning, which I think needs to be incorporated. And then I'd say more digital skills, comfort with collaborating digitally, comfort with digital marketing, comfort with understanding the user behavior in this kind of a digital world. I think these are important things. And I would also say that now more important than ever, I think it is important to find our confidence, right? Find our voice, find the I sometimes have people reaching out to me from the community, people with disabilities, and almost without exception, I think people are starting very apologetically, right? And I don't understand why that needs to be the case, right? That Why are we letting ourselves down even before somebody's had a chance to talk to us, right? Differences exist of all types and varieties. So I think I would love for people in the community to build more confidence, and for organizations like ours to contribute to building more confidence. I think we don't have to start by cutting a sorry figure. Right? So.
I must say thanks to you, and thanks to Google for coming up with products which are so easy to access and so easy to understand. But yes, coming in, taking a cue from you, we need to probably this goes to all of our potential employers and thousands of our trainees, whom we keep saying that please embrace technology, and that's the future, and that is where we are here. And last 13 to 14 months, it has actually proved for all of us. So thanks to that, Rahul. My next query would be, of course, to both of you, but then I would like to hear from Shilpi that what kind of opportunities do we see for persons with disabilities in India in the coming future?
Well, I think Rahul, right, and Ranjan, right from the first time that I started working in this space, I've always said that people with disabilities can do whatever it is that they are passionate about. I think very often we put them in a box and we say that they can only do X, Y, or Z. But I think I'll take the instance of my own organization, right? So I have 250 odd people. 75% of us are people with disabilities. In the last year alone, in the pandemic, without meeting our employees, we've hired 35 people with disabilities in just this entire year. And we haven't ever met any of those people. They come from all different walks of life, from all different parts of India, but they have the skill set that we require. They have learned, in this case, the screen reader. In the case of deaf, they are very good with their computer skills, and we can teach them how to create ebooks. In the case of visually impaired people, we can use them as accessibility testers. We have hired people who are, from all walks of life and all kinds of education backgrounds. It's about the passion to what it is that you're willing to focus on. And then is your employer willing to invest some in you? Right? So in our world, in the accessibility world, forget people with disabilities. We don't even get able-bodied people, so to say, who know accessibility, and we have to teach them. So what's the difference? As a company, we have the culture that we will educate, we will create awareness, we will nurture people. So I think in the post world that we're all seeing, obviously it's going to be market ready skills. Rahul was talking about digital marketing. I think it's an avenue for most people with disabilities to get into. Content writing, so it's not necessarily always going to be that barista, but can we even go beyond that in these organizations? And I think there is a need for all of us to promote education, and education which is targeted at employment and skilling rather than just education. So I'll give you a simple example. We in our purview to go out and employ so many people, we hire a lot of freshers, right? Now, because they've never really ever had jobs anywhere else. The biggest challenge that we have is English as a language. Now, Barry Brick does not cater to the Indian market. We cater to 14 countries globally. We need to write for our customers, right? Can I compromise on English? Can I teach you English from day one? I can't. I can teach you, technology skills, but I can't teach you language skills. So I think organizations like TRRAIN and others need to focus on what I call base skills that a person has to come with, and then as an employer, I can build on top of that. I can give them technical skills. I can give them strategic skills which are required. So I think, as I see it, the world is open. Today, jobs are remote. A lot of those challenges are no longer there. Having said that, let me tell you, my employees with disabilities are dying to come back to work. They're like, we want to leave the house and we want to come and meet people and we want to just come and have chai with everybody. And I think it's critical. So I think that is it from my perspective. But I've had the same stand since the first day I joined the sector, which is 1997. So I'm yet holding on to the same.
That gives us a lot of motivation, and of course our employers who have joined hands with us of late, and they have been accessible and they have been providing employment opportunities, and that is how the year 2020 opened up more avenues for us with respect to all of our punk trainees, and the kind of jovial mood they are into and the kind of exuberance they bring in to the workplace every day. I think that is completely understood. With this, Rahul, if at all we could get to know from you that what is your view and what do you think are the various employment opportunities for persons with disabilities in the coming future.
Yeah, I think like Shilpi said, I think barriers are imposed by either people who don't understand the space or by our own selves. I don't think there's a third entity which is doing it. So, in fact, I think that, like I was saying previously, the pandemic has proven that work can be done remotely, right? Going to a certain place is not necessarily important to accomplish work. So, I would like to think that, the big trends of e-commerce, digital everything, right? Remote everything. I think these are a great tailwind for us. But I would like to say for sure that that's if a person with disabilities available remotely, a person without disability is also available remotely, right? So competition is there, and that's why I think it is important to polish our foundational skills. I think like Shilpi was also saying, but at the same time also spend effort in self advocacy, right? I'm pretty sure that if you take two equally qualified people, the person with disability carries better patience, right? Better collaboration, better listening, because of the way the person's lived their life so far, right? I think those are the things to be spoken about, because as an employer, we see that beyond hard skills, beyond the specific qualifications, it's those skills, patience, collaboration, right, which make all the difference between long-term success or lack of it. So I'd say that there is something that this community inherently possesses, which I don't see being spoken about a lot when people are interviewing as candidates, and there should be no shame in doing that, right? So I'd say that all kinds of jobs are open, even more so now, because meeting in person is not necessarily a mandatory thing. So much happens over the computer, and as long as one has computer skills, I think a lot more jobs are open. But the door will not be open if we don't knock on the door, right? So those things are, I think, very, very important. But it's important for all of us, including TRRAIN, Shilpi's organization, Google, and all of us, to continue to increase the awareness, right? That this whole barrier is a smoke screen. I think we have to get past that smoke screen. I mean, there are very few jobs that others can do and a person with disability cannot do, but we have to knock the door open a little bit, I feel. So.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you, Rahul. And with the kind of roles on a retail shop floor we have, and over the years, it has been completely decimated, right? We thought of that somebody won't be able to stand at the counters to do a point of sales. But then that has been done, and with the kind of open arms organizations have embraced, and they have ensured that somebody who is unable to walk properly, probably supporting them with a chair, and making accessible pause systems which can be modulated as per the height and somebody's disability. I think that has been working very efficiently. On shop floors, we have generally seen SHI youth who is standing there on a shop floor and asking that with a jacket that may I help you. So these kind of thoughts have actually helped across. So Rahul, well, thanks for that thought. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I just want to add, I think it's extremely important that people who have been able to overcome the barriers, that their journeys and their lives are actually showcased and celebrated. I think that
Absolutely.
helps both a candidate as well as a potential employer, right? Because a lot of times I've seen, and I've, unlike Shilpi, I've not been in this space for very long. It's been very few years for me. And more, I'm realizing that more people in the role of employers or colleagues, they want to help, they don't know how to help. right?
Yeah.
And I feel that showcasing, role modeling, making it easy. I think so. If you spoke about somebody who's able to do it despite some motor or mobility related challenges, I think we need to showcase that a lot more. We need to celebrate that a lot more, because that gives a lot more candidates the confidence, and that gives a lot more potential employers the confidence. I think that's something that we need to do. And I would actually encourage candidates to be the voice for the community also, to say that person X was able to do this job, and that gave me the reason to apply for this job, right? I think we have a shared responsibility in bringing down these barriers.
So I just want to add to that, Rahul,
Yes,
just to your point, I think it was about 4 years back that Barrier Break came out with an initiative called Newshook. It's NEWZHOOK. Newshook actually, its motto is to change attitudes towards disability, right? And if you go to our website, you find stories which really change the way that you think about people with disabilities, and people with disabilities are at the center of that. To your point, I think it's very needed. And it is about going beyond those 5 or 10 role models, but bringing out all of the rest who are also, getting there wherever it is that they want to get to. Right.
correct. So that brings to us, Shilpi. It's been we heard about the year that you actually joined in the sector. It is the year 1997. It's been a while now, and we were quite inquisitive to know that what has been your observations all these years of change in the ecosystem, and where do you see it going from here? Because where it started from, there was zero, and when once we have reached a number of a century, and now we are looking forward to the years coming in. What are your observations, and what do you think? Where are we going currently?
So I have some good and bad news on that front. Um, the good news is there is change. The bad news is it's not as fast as it should be, and it's not systemic. It's one off, right? I think it's very critical for all of us to look at how do we really want to take this on. I yet see disability coming from the angle of charity, CSR, etc. It needs to become mainstream. It does not even have to be about the person with disability. At the end of the day, you might count the numbers for a dashboard, but I think it doesn't have to be beyond that. I think we're starting to see a trickle. So at least when I talk about the digital accessibility world for 2 seconds, right? Um, I can obviously start to see a shift, right? We've got the Microsofts, the Googles, the Amazons, all of them wanting to focus on disability and accessibility, and seeing that their products and solutions are making change happen. Right? A very simple example. My mother, who's totally not technology savvy, has gotten used to Alexa, right? And Alexa is her morning bhajan, and Alexa is her weather for the day. And Alexa has become a friend. And she is totally fine with that. Now, that's, that is where we have to get disability to. We have to get disability to the technology that you need, the technology that the way that you want to interact with it, and the technology, that is easy for you to use. So I think the good is that the way technology is moving, this last 1 year has shown every organization better their product and solution. I don't think there is one or the other that hasn't. I think everybody has just come to the forefront and said, we are going to make things more accessible, right? We couldn't see movies as visually impaired people. Today, you've got Netflix with audio described movies. And that can change the way that we are all watching television, entertainment. So I think the opportunity is fabulous, right? The challenge is yet systemic, right? It is not systemic, it's one off. It's when we have that amazing leader at that top, who's got a buy-in. It's when we have the Rahuls out there who say, I'm going to make this happen. But what we need is every Rahul out there to be able to say, we are going to make inclusion happen. So I think the gap is that, and it has to be said that India is slower on the on-take, right? There is no two ways about it. We are not going at the same pace as the rest of the world, right? A very simple example I would say is, let's take some of the mobile apps out there today. right? And there are so many mobile apps that have become day-to-day requirements for all of us, right? We buy our groceries, we need to procure medicines. You can't step out as much. They need to be accessible. And the same thing applies to retail, right? So if I want to shop for something, I should be able to shop for it online. So in India, we yet have to take on digital accessibility at that level, where we have every corporate, every app maker, every website looking at people with disabilities as a return on investment, looking at them as target audiences, and thus investing in their own products. I can tell you of organizations that we've been speaking to for the last 6 years, right? 6 years. And they yet have not come to the point of saying, we will make our apps accessible. Right? So we need that systemic shift. We need us to see that. So I think that is the way I see it. It's progress for sure, but it needs to be ROI driven, audience driven, revenue driven, and not CSR driven.
So, Shilpi, if at all we can say that if at all it would be in standard practice for all digital innovations and tech upfront coming in for all kind of audience, and that includes persons with disabilities, then I think it would be a viable situation.
That is the only situation.
That's
And
nice.
that is truly the only viable situation, because a person with disability also needs to go and buy a shirt, right?
Yeah.
The same shirt that you and I are going to buy has to go and buy the same groceries that you and I are going to buy. So there is no parallel world any longer. There has to be one world,
It has to be
right?
one.
And that is the one world that we need to get everybody onto, right? And that is the world that we want to see come together.
Wonderful. So we might say the mantra for one world and for a better and a beautiful world, it has to be one. We can count that. Well, thank you so much, Shilpi, for that word, and I think that is going to be my word mantra for the month of May and for the rest of the year. Till the time we achieve a aperture for all of us, and that should be accessibility and digital innovation for all. With this, if I may proceed with the session, and Rahul, the next one goes to you. That we all have been knowing, and it's like nobody says that search for it or find it out. Everybody says that Google it up or Google it out, and all the time. And I don't remember last time I had actually referred a dictionary some time back. I am a huge fan of using Cambridge or an Oxford dictionary, but I haven't used it in a while, and all thanks to Google for that. Uh, with the kind of initiatives Google has been taking up recently to drive inclusion in the society, if I may request, if you could share with us a few ideas and innovations which have been recently happening, or probably we are yet to see them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think uh, obviously product excellence has gotten us to a stage where the company's name has become a verb, right? So I think maybe there's a lesson for all of us, right? That if we can aspire to be really excellent at what we do, I think all of us stand a chance to become a verb in that sense, right? So I'd say that at the foundation is what lies in the company's mission, right? Which is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful, right? So accessible is in the company's mission, and it has been there forever since the company's existed. In fact, recently we had the company's CEO Sundar Pichai, right, actually articulate, and I want to read it for everyone here. He says, when we say we want to build for everyone, we mean it. Accessibility is written into our mission statement and core to our values as a company. We don't think a problem is solved until we've solved it for everyone. Technology's great promise is to give everyone the same power to achieve their goals. As long as there are barriers, for some, there is still work to be done. Unquote. Right? So I think that I feel really fortunate that as a company, we've embraced it at the very, very top. Right? The tone of the top always matters. On this topic, it matters even more. I'd say that there is also a realization that we are, after all, a technology company, right? And technology, there is a lot of inequity in the society, many, many dimensions. But hopefully for us, on the dimension of ability or disability, technology can make a difference, right? So, in fact, you'd see that we have a section on our website for accessibility, You can actually go to google.com/accessibility. There is a lot of resources there. There is also stuff on our commitment, resources for developers, right? In fact, in a few days, we will have the first ever Google I/O. This was, this is an event for developers by Google, right? And it was always in person, but now in line with the times, we have a purely online only and available to everybody event, right? So it is at events.google.com/io, and you'd see that, just do a search for accessibility and you'd see 6 or 7 different sessions within IO which talk about accessibility in ML, accessibility in Android, accessibility in UX, and so on and so forth. So this is something pretty fundamental, but at the same time, I want to acknowledge that these are still early days, right? Google's still not done enough, and especially as someone sitting in Google in India, I think one of my core roles along this dimension is to make sure that all of our engineering teams located globally think about emerging markets also, right? Obviously, there are deficiencies in the data that government makes available, right? So I'm sure there are many more people with disability of any kind than our government data kind of makes it sound to be. But I think my job has been to raise that awareness internally and externally. So lots of products. In fact, I love it that we are doing this meeting on a not a Google product, but a product which has live transcription, and you find the same live transcription on Google Meet also, right? There are obviously products for people with motor impairments. There are products for people with cognitive impairments, right? And so on and so forth. And but I think what I find personally very exciting as an employee of the company is that there is a lot commitment, and that commitment is not ephemeral. That commitment is not for 2021, right? It's there in our mission statement. We want to continue to do it. I think I also want to say that there is a recognition that when you build products for a minority, for a person with disability or persons with disabilities, that improves the product for everybody else also, right? Voice technologies or better UX, live transcription, so on and so forth, helps everybody, right? So that I think we recognize that supporting accessibility is more than just compassionate exercise, right? It makes commercial sense, right? I think there is a study by Accenture or someone that the 1.3 billion people with disability, they and their families and their caregivers have a purchasing power of about $6 trillion. That's a whole lot of money, right? So I think in my own work on disability, and obviously these are early days for me, I think I try to focus on these two things, because I think as a company we try to focus on these two things. One is that when you build products for a minority, it makes the experience for everybody better, and there's a lot of commercial opportunity here, right? And also there the recognition that disability needs to be everybody's business, not only the person with disability or not only their family, because I think you acquire disability because of genetic reasons. People acquire disability due to accident reasons, but then people also acquire disability with age, right? So even if today a family is not directly impacted with disability, there is nothing to say that that family will never be impacted by disability. So I would, and I say it not from any other thing, but to make people realize that this needs to be everybody's business. And I think as a company we recognize that age related disabilities is a very large market also. Genetic related disability is a very large market also, and accident related reasons are also a very big reason. So these 1.3 billion people is a very, very large portion of the world's population, and this cannot be a community, this cannot be a large proportion that we don't build products and services for. I think so we are governed by that, and there is some work which has been done. It's there on our website, but a lot more to be done so far.
Well, thanks, Rahul, and well understood. With that, one of the major impacts and proving points that I mentioned is about age-related disability, and our concentration and good amount of focus should be there on that front. Shilpi, if I may request, if at all you have any views about age-related disabilities and the concentration and focus on digital technologies and innovations for them in terms of improving the quality of life.
So I'll just go back to an Android phone for 2 seconds, right? And speak from there. Um, that pinch and zoom that all of us have become so used to increase text size, is just become a habit for all of us, right? In this last 1 year, I've got specs. I never used to have it. That pinch and zoom is is that feature that nobody even realizes is an accessibility feature. It is an age related feature. You see every second elderly person looking at their phone and then doing a pinch and zoom and increasing text size and zooming in so that they can see things better. Now, that's a very simple instance of technology that has become ubiquitous for everybody. It doesn't matter whether you have a disability, you don't have a disability. It has just become something that has become part of our lives. So when you talk about age related, right? Age related is not about somebody turning 80 and then requiring technology. Age related is as we are aging, and that's year on year, there are certain things that we find, we can't do as well, and maybe we would need certain technology for doing that, right? So it's time to start looking at disability and start to look at those analogies as I see it, right? So you might say somebody who's deaf or hard of hearing and put them in a bucket. But on the other side, you have people like you and me who are on Zoom calls every second day. And our hearing loss is going to be a lot faster than our parents, right? And we need to build for that. If you look at you and me using our technology and our laptops and the way we type, it is, carpal tunnel syndrome and arthritis are going to be things that you and I are going to have to work with. So people who believe that, it is about them and not us, need to wake up and realize that a lot of what they use was actually made for them, right? So this is a standing joke, and I think I said it at one of TRRAIN's opening keynotes, where I said, if you use Google Maps, please raise your hands. If you use word prediction, please raise your hands. None of these things were made for us. They were made for people with disabilities, right? And I continue to say that. So I think aging needs to be looked at differently than we have till now in India specifically. We only say our grandparents are aged. We don't look at ourselves and say we've aged. It's about changing the way that we look at life. I think the pandemic has taught us all of this. Today you have people who want to listen to books. They don't want to read their books. That's great. But you might have somebody who was visually impaired who was always listening to their books and was not reading their books. Right? So when you start looking at life from, the world, sometimes my team says Shilpi's world of disability, right? I don't see that difference. And I wish I could share that understanding with everybody else out there, because then these conversations wouldn't need to exist. We would just build for everybody and all differences. And that is what I think is the future.
Well noted, Shilpi. And I think that was an eye opener. And of course, looking at how we are aging each single day is also a question, and it needs to be asked by all of us. Well, thanks for that, Shilpi. Uh, Rahul, this one again, I would like to go back to you. And since we see a huge array of products coming in from Google, and we all are amazed about the thinking and the innovations which goes behind each product, if at all you could throw some light and shed some light on the thought process behind innovation and making of these products at Google.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned, right? I mean, accessibility is not an optional activity for us, right? Because we want to be a company whose products and the services around those products are available to literally everybody. So, so it's very foundational. In fact, there are many products which are actually supporting a few thousand users only in the whole wide world, and we are okay with that, right? Because that's how we want to be. The other reason for doing this is, like I think I mentioned, Shilpi gave some examples of also, is that there is this realization that when you design something for a minority, and I'm not only saying people with disabilities, a different example is YouTube Shorts, right? So YouTube Shorts is actually a product which has been launched only in India so far. but now it's actually going global, right? There is a deep rooted realization in the company that when you design for a minority, the majority benefits from it, right? And in fact, there's a term for it called the curb cut effect, right? That, literally on the curbs, when you make a cut, which is probably helpful for somebody on a motorized vehicle, that helps everybody. That helps older people. That helps a man or a woman, with a child in a stroller or something like that. That helps with people with weak joints, etc., etc. So I think that is the realization, and then also is the realization that, like I said, that there is real commercial opportunity here, right? Better products sell more. Better products have a long life. Better products, uh, you know, invoke the right kind of partnership. Like I want to also look at it a little bit differently when we talk about the 1.3 billion people, right? These are people, you and me. They are people in our families. They are people in the families of our customers. They are people in the families of our partners, right? And when we, and herein lies a lesson for, I think, all companies, all employers, right? That don't do it only as an act of charity. You do it because your customers want you to be a certain way, right? And I think the what I feel a very good tailwind to our efforts is going to be that the new generation, the millennials, right, and even the younger people, they are very, very socially awakened. They're very conscious, right? I think it may not be a reality today in that widespread way in India, but I'm pretty sure if a company cannot support disability, if a company is not seen as accessible or an equal opportunity employer, I think they will struggle to maintain their customer base, right? So what a brand stands for, what a retailer stands for, what a bank stands for, uh, in this domain will be very important. And I think Google, as a company, recognizes that, right? So since we want everybody to use our products, we have to make products for everybody, and that includes caregivers, that includes people who support people with disability. So I think that awakening is there, and that guides most of the products that we make, and you'll see a lot more come in there, right? I mean, I can't say that every one of our products is equally accessible, but the gaps are well understood, and I think there is work being done to plug those gaps.
Well, thanks for that answer, and probably we'll have this message moved around, and we'll keep this in our mind while we discuss this with our employers and talk about the thought process which goes behind an innovation and products of Google. With that, we come to the last point of the discussion of this webinar today. Is Shilpi and Rahul, we know that we have crossed probably more than 1 billion people globally who are persons with disabilities, and on the occasion of Global Accessibility Awareness Day, for this day, and we all know, while we spoke about that, how can we embrace technology, and that will open huge doors for digital accessibility for organizations, and one of them being is employment opportunities. Amongst all other wide array of opportunities, employment opportunities do open up for persons with disabilities across. Uh, a few highlights coming in from people who are experts in this zone, where companies can embrace, or probably companies can imbibe those a few steps in those organizations in their self policies and regulations, where it will open up more doors and begin their digital accessible journey. Yes, Shilpi or Rahul, anybody can.
I guess Rahul's waiting for me and I'm waiting for him.
Yes,
Go ahead.
thought as much.
Okay. So I think the way that it needs to work is, firstly, employers need to understand that flexibility is the word, for the world of the future from an employment perspective. Giving people with disabilities choices, right? The moment we provide our employees choices, we will land up embracing people with disabilities into our fold. The choice of, do I need an interpreter on my call? Do I want captioning, training? So I think the first thing that I would tell employers is to look at flexibility of choice, right? I would really urge them to look at training of their own people so that they can ensure that the understanding of accessibility and disability is there within the organization, and that it isn't only that one person who's carrying the baton of the DNI professional, but the organization at large, right? And I think that is very important. I think the third thing that I see from a digital accessibility perspective is, digital is everywhere today. Start procuring digital. The moment you will procure digital, which is accessible, you will be able to employ people with disabilities, right? And I think it's very important that you ask those questions to your HRMS software, that can this be used by people with disabilities? Because if it can't, and if you bring in that system, and you will not be able to employ the people that you really want to go and employ. So intent has to be matched with all of these actions which are needed within a corporate, right? And I think that is very, very critical. So I think it's important for corporates to understand that they have to look at this from the entire life cycle, right? Not just that find a person and put them in the team, but that entire employee engagement cycle. What do they use in the different parts, and then also from the customer perspective, right? So it's a tall task, but I can tell you that it starts with small steps, where you start making a difference in one area, but continue to create a roadmap as an employer to include digital accessibility. And if we do that, we will see success.
Wonderful. That Shilpi, that is again an addition to us, and probably I have taken my notes. Once I go back and we speak to our respective employment partners who gives us opportunities for thousands of our beneficiaries, I think that would be a key note for me specifically. Thanks a lot, Shilpi, for that. Rahul, if I may request for your points.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I completely agree with everything Shilpi said, but I will come to it a bit later. I think the work that all of us as advocates need to do is to answer the question, what's in it for me, right? To an employer. And to that, I actually want them to see three opportunities, right? See the commercial opportunity, right? That $6 trillion I spoke about is not phantom. It's real money waiting to be tapped, right? See the brand opportunity. I think companies which cannot communicate their social awakening, companies that cannot communicate their being an equal employment of equal opportunity employer, companies whose products are not accessible are denting their brand every day that they are not acting on this, right? So companies should see the commercial opportunity, they need to see the brand opportunity, and they also need to see the talent opportunity, right? This 1.3 billion people, if they are not a part of your talent strategy, sooner or later you are actually doing disservice to your own organization, right? And this is not an act of charity. People with disabilities, like I said, because of the life that they have lived, they actually possess some characteristics, some attributes which are unique to them, right? Which is the whole patience, which is the whole perseverance, which is that can do attitude, because that person has done that can do in their own life. Will they not do the can do for your job that you give them? Obviously they will, right? So I think the commercial opportunity, the brand opportunity, the talent opportunity must be seen and understood. And therefore my appeal is to the leadership is that, please let your inaction today not become a costly mistake tomorrow, right? Please invest in increasing your knowledge. I can understand that, completely transforming a company and its culture will take a period of time, but the tone at the top will be the most determining step towards building systemic solutions, like Shilpi said, right? It's not about hiring that one man or woman or hiring that one person on wheelchair to tick the box. I mean, you can do it, but whose loss is it? It is your own loss, right? And then I think where I want to completely agree with Shilpi is that, we have four pillars to our own work towards becoming a inclusive workplace, especially, the work that I and my team do with respect to disability is that the pillars are come in, come out, go anywhere, and feel supported. So come in is about recruitment, right? But we recognize that it is a multifaceted problem because they drop out in education, etc., etc. So we want to solve it through awareness also, and we want to solve it through skilling also. Come out, I think we didn't get a chance to talk about a lot today. A lot of the disabilities are actually invisible disabilities, right? There may actually be people in your company who identify with one or more of either neurodiversity or some things like that, right? Can we create avenues for them to come out? Because if they can come out and we can showcase their success and we can celebrate their journeys, it'll give a lot more encouragement to people who are waiting to come out, and it'll give a lot more encouragement to people who never thought that they could work at employer X. But when they see somebody who's ADHD, somebody who's autistic, somebody who's dyslexic and working at company X, I think it'll encourage a lot more people to strive harder, right? So that come out is something we can is the job of employers and companies to do. The go anywhere is the accessible workplaces, and feel supported is most important in my mind, of having a culture where somebody who's carrying some sort of a difference or a disability doesn't have to walk the journey alone with a burden, right? Disabilities is nature's manifestation of diversity, right? So why can't it become a part of diversity in our own company, and beyond just lip service and beyond just I think our our journey is going to be long. I think like I tell my team that we are on day 1 or day 2 of a 10,000-day journey, right? So I think we have to also be patient, that the kind of change that we desire is not an easy change. It's a multifaceted change, and a lot of people who want to be a part of the change don't know how to be a part of the change. So I think we have to be patient. I think we have to support each other. We have to lean on each other, and thank you to organizations like TRRAIN who are bringing all of us together, so we know who else exists in the ecosystem that we can lean on. So thank you for that.
Well, Rahul, practicability and understanding the right emotions and the pointers that you have mentioned, I think completely can be accepted and probably imbibed in regulations and policies of organizations. And I completely agree with you. And thanks to you for this understanding. Well, with this, I must say thanks for all of your pointers that have been mentioned in the past 60 minutes. And I must be surely overwhelmed as of now with all the points and all the keynote that I have gathered from this meeting, and understanding from the session that how together accessibility can be achieved at a major proportion. And with this, I must say thanks to both of you, Shilpi and Rahul, for taking out your valued time and sparing this time with us. I hope a majority of our viewers would be persons with disabilities to understand. Majority of these our viewers who are our employment partners would understand that how important it is at this single day to embrace technology. And with this, on behalf of TRRAIN, I would like to thank Shilpi and Rahul for giving us this time. I would keep coming back to you for more solutions and more thoughts on this process.
Thank you, Ranjan. Can I just say one line before we close?
Yes, I was coming to yes.
So today is Global Accessibility Awareness Day, the day the video comes out. And on this day, Barrier Break is running an online initiative, which is called COVID Accessibility Bug Bounty. The aim is that a lot of the COVID websites and mobile apps are inaccessible to disabled people. So we are crowdsourcing accessibility bugs in the world. You can go to barrierbreak.com/GAD, that's GAAD, for Global Accessibility Awareness Day, and go and submit bugs about the problems that you're facing with these COVID websites, so that we can get it to the right people, the right departments, the right people that can make a difference and make even the COVID information more accessible to people with disabilities. So just wanted to say that before, and thank you so much, TRRAIN, for inviting me for this session.
Fantastic initiative, Shilpi, and I am sure this will spread out faster. And as all of your tasks at Breaking Barrier has been innovative and has been creating milestones, so this one goes in next. And thank you so much again, Shilpi. And for all of our viewers, if you need a transcript of this session, please click on the link in the description. Thank you so much.